Um, I got a story to tell, and I think some of you have already seen some of it. But I thought it might be a good idea to clarify a few things and let everybody know exactly what happened yesterday. Uh, if you haven't seen the video, which I'd be surprised if you haven't, because I think pretty much all my friends have seen it by this point. Um, Yesterday, I achieved a lifelong ambition, and I finally got to meet Jon Bon Jovi, which to be saying those words is just insane. I still can't get my head around it. The fact that you know, the time of my life when I haven't met him is over, and I now live in a time where I can say that I have. That is just bizarre. But I met him in London at an event called In Conversation with Jon Bon Jovi. It was a Q&A session about the launch of the new Bon Jovi Forever book, which is just sort of an account. It's kind of like an autobiography, an account of the band's history, and it's full of personal notes and pictures and things like that. It's a pretty amazing book. It's a signed copy as well. We all got given a signed copy at the event, which is awesome. So they put on this thing in London, and initially I didn't think I was going to get to go because it was such a small event, and the only way I knew of to get tickets was if you pre-ordered the new album that came out on Friday. You were in with a chance of winning a ticket to attend. So I pre-ordered the album and I crossed my fingers. I did not win a ticket. However, by pure chance, I was scrolling through Facebook and saw a post from Planet Rock that said that there were tickets available to buy in limited quantities. And I hit the link and I bought the tickets, and I had no idea if I was going to be able to get there. At the time, I don't think I'd even checked how much they cost. I just bought 2 tickets and I messaged Chloe, and luckily she was not working on Saturday and we were able to go to London. It was a long day. We left the house about 5 in the morning, drove to Cambridge, got the train from there into London to Foyles Foyles? I think it's Foyles, the bookshop on Bond Street. Again, I think it's Bond Street. Big old bookshop, like a giant Waterstones. Queued up, joined the queue, and it wasn't, like I say, there was maybe 200 people. It was a very, very small event. They opened the doors, they let us in one by one, and as we went in, one of the team said, they gave us the copy of the book, and they said, if you have any questions for Jon, let us know now, and we'll write them down, and then we'll pass them over to his team, and they'll pick some. They'll approve some questions for the Q&A. And when she said, do you have a question for him? I instinctively just said, yeah, can I open for you at Wembley? It was a joke. It was a bit of a joke. But I was already kind of living a dream by getting to go to this event. Now, as far as I knew, it was not going to be anything particularly personalised. We'd told beforehand that there wasn't going to be any kind of photo op or anything like that. But you get to attend the event, you get to sit in the room with Jon and listen to him talk about the book and talk about some stories and what's coming up in the future. That's pretty amazing in itself, to be able to attend an event like that. For me, anyway. So we sat for a while. What I didn't realise about the day was that hosting the event and sort of, talking to Jon on the stage was Mark Jeeves, who is a presenter for Planet Rock and a huge Bon Jovi fan. And I had sent Mark some material in the past. I'd sent him my album when I was doing the PR campaign last year. I'd gone through, professional PR guys and sent him the stuff, but he never got back to us. As is the nature of the business, you can't always expect to get a reply from people. But I had no idea he was going to be there that day, and if he hadn't been there as the host, it might not have gone the way it did, because he has such a great sense of humour. So when it came to the questions, the Q&A, they asked a bunch of questions that had been pre-approved, and then Mark said, I've also got a few unapproved questions that I'd like to ask, or that I would like to get Jon to answer. And it was, first of all, it was an amazing experience listening to Jon speak. He said some things that really sort of got me right in the gut. but were very validating as well. You know, he has a lot of very similar views on the music industry today and how things are done that he doesn't like, and the way record labels run things now. And, you know, it's everything that I've been saying to myself and to anybody else who will listen for the last few years while I've been on this journey. So that was really incredible. But he was a really it was, you know, he was very, very humble. He was very, very nice. He wasn't standoffish. He wasn't anything you'd expect a rock star of that capacity to be. He was very, very pleasant, and he was very engaging with everybody, which was really cool. You know, you never know how it's going to go when you're in a room with your greatest hero, and you hope he's not going to be an arsehole, you know. But he wasn't. He definitely wasn't. But it got to these unapproved questions, and I said to Chloe, get your phone out just in case, you know, because I had an instinct, I had a feeling. So much so that I had brought with me a copy of the album. I had it in my back pocket. I didn't even tell Chloe. I just, before I left, I just thought, yeah, I'll take it. You never know. Why not? It's never going to happen. Doesn't really matter. But just in case it does, maybe I should be prepared. And I'm really glad I did, because Mark said, where's Adam? And I stood up and I put my hand in the air. I said, I'm over here. And he said, go ahead, ask your question. And I said, can I open for you at Wembley? And Jon laughed, and everybody else laughed, and I got a bit of a cheer, which is about what I expected. I didn't expect a yes or a no. He can't say yes, but he wouldn't want to be seen to say no. And I thought, well, I'll break the ice. And I said, I did try to do what you did. If anybody who doesn't know, Jon got his big break in 1983 by going down to a radio station, knocking on the glass with a demo tape and saying, play this. And that's what, you know, led to his sort of discovery, signing with a label and becoming famous. And I said, I tried to do what you did. I tried to send it to the DJ, but he never got back to me. And if you see all this in the video anyway, but I'm trying to give it a bit of context, you know, because I had sent stuff to Mark and he was right there. So far, it's all so perfect, you know. I said, I can't believe, you know, he's right there, and I tried to send it to him, but he never wrote me back. And Jon said, well, you fucked up. You should have gone down there. You need to go to him. And I took that as a challenge and an invitation. So I said, all right, well, I'm here now. And I got up and I said, I'm coming over. And I walked down to the front, and you see in the video, I kind of walked straight past Jon because I think my brain is trying to protect me from losing my mind at that point. I wasn't really in control, I don't think. Kind of on autopilot. I handed the CD to Mark, so it freed my hands up so I could turn to Jon and shake his hand and look him in the eye and tell him, after 14 years of waiting to tell him, what an inspiration he'd been. And I said, one way or another, because you can't hear this on the video because it's quite loud in there. I said, one way or another, I'm going to see you at Wembley. And he said, okay. Just to clarify, you know, I keep joking and saying, I guess I'm opening for Bon Jovi at Wembley, you know, I just want to clarify that at this point in time, there's nothing to say that I actually am, and that would be ridiculous. But would it? Is kind of my point. Because by that point, I'd already achieved the impossible. I'd already done something that I believed would never happen. And everything that happened yesterday, you know, from taking the CD with me to instinctively giving them that question, to then finding out that it was Mark Jeeves that was presenting, everything just kind of fell into place. If I were a more spiritual person, I would call it fate, but I'm not. I prefer to find reason for things after they happen. But I think now I have an opportunity. I think that I would be crazy to not take this opportunity and run with it, because I feel like I made an impact. I feel like that's something that I hope he would remember. I know that Mark will remember it. He told me as such. He said, well, you've got my attention, and I emailed him last night and I got a reply. He's going to have a listen to the record and he's going to let me know what he thinks about it. But I think the smart thing to do, as I've now achieved that goal, I think I need to aim higher and keep going. So what I think I'm going to be doing now is officially starting some kind of campaign to see if we can get me and the guys on stage at Wembley in September next year. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. It's going to require a hell of a lot of work and a hell of a lot of luck, more so than anything else. But I could really use a lot of help from you guys as well. So, you know, if you would like to see that happen as much as I would, because I think it can be done. I've already done the impossible and now I just got to do it again. I think it can be done. But to get there, if I can get anybody watching this, you know, friends, family, to share that video, post it on Instagram as well. Instagram's good. Share the video, tag me, tag Jon Bon Jovi, use the hashtag Bon Jovi and the hashtag, let's say, get me to Wembley. I'll put it all in the description for the video. But that's the plan, and I think with the right attitude and a bit of legwork, and like I say, a whole lot of luck, a little bit more luck than I've had already, we could be very cheeky, stretch it, and maybe we'll get to Wembley next year. But that's what happened. Yeah, it was a hell of a day. I can't really explain how I feel, because, you know, this is such a huge deal for me. For anybody who's known me a long time knows how important this is to me. And I guess we'll just see what happens. But I'll see you guys later on.